my name is 𝐊𝐚𝐫𝐞𝐚𝐫𝐲, and this is the lecture about one of the best players in the history of chess and a good friend of mine, Anatoly Karpov. I have known Karpov since mid-60s when I was working under supervision of, at that time, famous theoretician and one of the best coaches that ever lived, Semyon Furman, then grandmaster. He wasn't very successful in the tournament, but he had a great knowledge of game, and he was the coach of Anatoly Karpov. So I am 7 years older than Karpov, but we still spend some time in outskirts of Leningrad, where Karpov and Furman lived, and we did a lot of work together, and we kind of got on a very friendly note. And then there is one occasion happened that we confronted each other, confronted as from the opposite camp against each other, and that was when in the 70s, Viktor Korchnoi, then Karpov's competitor for World Championship title. It was, I'm saying title because it would have been as a title because we knew, almost we suspected, that Bobby Fischer will never play again, and Bobby Fischer was world champion. So whoever won this match would have won the right to play Bobby Fischer for the title. And since Bobby wasn't playing, that would have been the title. So I was working with Viktor Korchnoi. I was invited by Viktor Korchnoi to study for 2 months before the match and then be his second in the match. Well, I was very excited to work, to have a part in a world championship match. So, well, in chess, this I consider as just a business move, and this is the life. As a professional, I had to accept this offer. And so I was against Karpov's camp. And Karpov had, at that time, since he was a favorite of Russian Chess Federation, and he was on very good terms with leading Russian politicians, I practically was against whole camp of top Soviet grandmasters. There was, well, I don't know who I can name that wasn't there. And it was kind of uneven condition, and especially with the Korchnoi. Korchnoi portrayed this as a complete abuse of him. He thought there was very much pressure on him by the psychologist, by the, where there was a guy named Zuhar who was extra sense, and he was having great influence on Korchnoi's thinking. I didn't believe any of it, so I just took this job as a professional, and although we won the match, I learned a lot about chess. So after the match, some years went by, and Karpov is already world champion, and I got across against with him. We talked about very many different things, and in order to understand why we got back in very friendly terms, you have to know Karpov. And knowing him, I can tell you that Karpov personally never had enemies. Maybe some of the people, like Korchnoi, treated him as an enemy because he lost the match to him, and Korchnoi, knowing Korchnoi, he hates everybody that he loses to, and not only chess, any game. We played a couple of different card games. When I was working with him, we played some card games, not for money, very friendly. And if I have won, I temporarily became for him enemy number one. That was very unpleasant, but of course it went away quickly, or maybe within an hour after it happened. So Karpov was absolutely different person. There was side of him that made him very successful, not only in chess. Well, in chess, he had all he needed to have, but this is the side of him that made him extremely successful in life and in business. He always took, in every relationship, very diplomatic approach. However, we were very, very friendly. So he visited New York a couple of times, and he was staying in my house, and he was very friendly with me, with my wife. We went a few times to drink. He never drink much, but he liked very much my company, and we joked. We spent a lot of time together. But I have to tell you, as a chess player, he has absolutely unique talent. At first, I want to show you a game that is different from ordinary style of Anatoly Karpov. We know that Karpov's style is very dry, very positional, and big majority of the players consider it boring. Well, it may be boring for some people, but for Karpov, it was professionalism. He was professional. He did what it takes to win, and he performed this job perfectly. Here is the game played in 1994 against Topalov. You know, already in 94, Topalov was an elite player, and I saw that game, and later I asked Karpov how much did he see when he played the combination. He said he saw, and I believe him, all the way through. He was very positional. He is very positional player, but he was also extremely sharp in tactics. Well, here this game will prove it. Karpov is white, d4, knight f6, knight f3, c5, d5, e6. Knight c3, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop e7, e4, and castle. This is very well-known position, and it's approximately equal. Black has weak square on d5. White queen is standing perfectly on d5, but queen is not the right piece to put on a weak square. Queen, of course, will be chased away in a very few moves. After e4 and castle, bishop e2. Let's make these moves quicker. Castling, knight c6, c3, bishop e6, queen h5. Black played h6, and reason for it to stop possible knight g5 that will attack the mate on h7 and also bishop on e6. h6 is a good prophylactic move, also restricting some of white's pieces. Rook d1, rook e8, bishop f4, bishop f8. Position is approximately equal. Knight d2, g6, queen f3. You see, it's boring position, very quiet, and it's very hard to imagine that in a few moves it was totally wild combination. So queen f3, d5, there is move for total equality, queen g3, queen e7. That's not the part we want to analyze in details. Bishop takes d5, bishop f1, queen f6, knight b3, attacking the bishop, rook a d8, rook d2, simply doubling the rooks. This is all just moves based on basic principle, just improving position of the pieces. Nothing exciting so far still. So in this position, bishop e6 was played. White attacks the rook, entices black to take the rook on d2, and knight takes on d2, bishop f5, knight c4. I like white's position here because white's knight on c4, very well placed. Rook is coming to d1. I think white is just tiny bit better. Nothing alarming, of course. Rook e4. Now this move, probably with idea of rook g4, and knight e3. Of course, Karpov does not like his pieces to be attacked, so he doesn't want to allow rook g4. Overly cautious move of his style. So bishop c8, rook d1, rook e8. I understand when this game was played, Topolov probably, this slow maneuvering probably put him asleep, and he lost sense of danger. Right now, he is already considerably worse. White's piece is played a lot better placed. Bishop c4 can come, knight d5 can come. So after bishop c8, rook d1, and rook e8, h3, queen g5. Of course, noticing, as much as Karpov likes to play endgames, he notices here he had absolutely great sense. And they were even saying when Karpov was on top of his career, he has a sense in chess that no one else does. Queen f3 was played. King g7 and bishop f4. Queen e7. Already most of black's pieces went back. And now white has an advantage. Knight d5. And what's the most natural move in this position? You see your pieces are not placed too well. Knight centralized in its center, and you see you are under pressure. Of course, you want to exchange queens. This move leads, it shows you how good Karpov's tactical eye is. This leads to complete disaster for black, and in 3 or 4 moves they will resign. Knight f6. This is total killer that leaves black no option. Queen cannot be taken because knight is going to take rook with the check. And then white simply takes black's queen, and there will be up a rook. So the sacrifice has to be accepted. But then double check. You see, now double check, king has to move, and queen is hanging. So king has to take the queen. And now, being down two pieces, white ends up an exchange in the end game, which means is totally resignable. King f5, rook takes rook, and attacking two bishops. And in this position, bishop e6, rook takes f8, bishop takes a2, rook c8, black simply resign. Position is totally resignable. Bishop b5 is a threat, attacking the knight and picking up more pawns, also rook c7, black resign. Well, beginning this position, I think it's absolutely fascinating how, well, any player can overlook this knight f6 move. Well, little excuse for Topolov that his position is already extremely unpleasant. Queen e6 will be met by fork, so the king is exposed a little bit because bishop on f8 is bad, bishop on c8 is bad, and queen e4, the only natural move for any human being. So after queen f4, knight f6. Right now, if black saw whatever is coming, they would resign on the spot, and they should have been resigned. I think it's a problem, kind of a tactical shot that Karpov would never miss, and he didn't miss it in this game. I think it's absolutely brilliant game. So this game was highlight in the chess world for quite a while. The combination, especially played by Karpov, was very noticeable. If it was played by Bobby Fischer or Mikhail Tal, that were very tactical and very sharp player. But when it comes from player like Karpov, the combination and tactics is very, very noticeable. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I will see you very, very soon in a part 2 about Anatoly Karpov.